It's your guy Wardy here, and we're back out with the latest live edition of our New York Metropolitan postgame show, getting into game 2 of a 3-game set between the Mets and the Chicago Cubs. And the Cubbies came out victorious in this one by a final score of 6-5. In tonight's show, I'll get into my initial reactions, my frustration level, my positivity level, and everything in between, breaking down innings 1 through 9, all that transpired in this matchup, everybody, as my throat's still a little raspy as I was yelling my head off yesterday at the Mets game, and we did a postgame show live from Citi Field itself, guys, so make sure to check that out in case you haven't already, and be on the lookout as I will be back in attendance tomorrow for Mother's Day series finale, 12 p.m. Eastern game. Check out your guy Wardy there, and I will be either having live coverage directly after the ball game somewhere at the ballpark, or I will have some form of coverage for you guys in a pre-recorded video, or later, much later there, Mother's Day towards the night there, to go over what happened there for the series finale. But guys, I got a lot to say in this one, and there's both pros and cons naturally, and I will just tell you this, that naturally, while you lose a ball game where the Mets are yet again 1 for 10 at minimum with runners in scoring position, the key bugaboo yet again continues to bite this Mets team in the you-know-what. And until they get that figured out, until they get some consistency there, this Mets team is going to be overly reliant on the home run ball the way that they've been so far this season, and they're not going to be able to produce consistently the way that they want to in clutch situations and having proper situational hitting. The Mets, after winning a big game yesterday 7-2, come out and lose today 6-5. And while the pitching wasn't stellar, Tyler McGill couldn't even give you 5 innings. Max Kranick wasn't as sharp as we would otherwise love to see. But there is a positive to take away from this ball game for you guys to take into tomorrow's matchup. Please remember the following. It is Brett Bonds Baty. I joke when I say Brett Bonds Baty, I say Brett Bonds, Brett Hitman. We have fun with it because Brett Baty in Syracuse has been Barry Bonds-esque good. But when at the MLB level, he has not performed to the same caliber, especially on the power front. Well, now, folks, Brett Baty has hit more home runs than any other Met over the past 24 hours, which is crazy to say, but that is in fact a reality. So we're going to get into everything that transpired with Brett Baty, what is looking so great about him, and ultimately, what went wrong for the Mets in this ball game, and how can they, if at all, figure out these runner and scoring position woes before they continue to cost them close one-run ball games like we saw transpire today. G-Money in the chat said it best. What even is runner and scoring position? Exactly. Sadly, that's how a lot of us Mets fans feel, because while we've had home run heroics, mind you, the Mets have had 6 home runs the past 24 hours, all from lefty batters, half of them from Brett the Hitman Baty, and even then, it still isn't enough there, because why? The Mets are too reliant on the home run ball right now. They are not hitting nearly enough in situational hitting, and while yes, they have had their stretches of moments of success hitting with 2 outs and runner in scoring position, it has been more few and far in between than anything else. And in case you guys are wondering as your first chime in, Wardy, why am I looking at highlights from yesterday's game? That's because, quite frankly, there weren't a lot of highlights to show you from today's game outside of Brett Baty's heroicness that we saw that I do have added to this highlight reel. But given the fact that I didn't get a chance to show highlights in last night's post-game show, and not all you guys saw our Big Mets updates video yet from earlier in the AM, check it out in case you haven't already. I want to show you guys a little bit of that, the good at least so far this series, along with Brett Baty just doing Bonds-like things, which we love to see. So let's get into this one, everybody. Let's break down this ball game, and shout out to our amazing sponsors here at SeatGeek and BetUS, especially my great friends at SeatGeek. Please make sure to check them out by clicking that link down below in the description. That way you too get 10% off your next ticket purchase with our promo code WARDY10. Again, that is to all of your Mets ticketing needs, concert show needs, comedy show needs, you name it on the ticketing front. SeatGeek is the number 1 rated ticketing app in the game for a reason, with over 70,000 active events to choose from. So if you guys haven't used the promo code to save some dollars on your Mets tickets, I don't know what you're waiting for. Feel free to use it down below in the description. Click that link, and thank you guys so much for that. Now let's get into a roll call and see who we got in the chat right now. Let's go up the list here just for a second. We got Cameron here with a $5 holla. Thank you so much for that, Cameron. I appreciate that. Cameron states the following: I never thought anyone would be worse than the 62 Mets, and now it's going to happen 2 years in a row. Rockies are down 20-0 and about to be 6-23. Yeah, they're horrendous. The Rockies make the Chicago White Sox look like a playoff caliber team. That is how bad they are. It's not shocking to see that, but it's still absolutely disgusting to see. And we saw Fernando Tatis Jr. hit a bomb earlier in the 5th or 6th inning that made it 19-0 at the time. Just ridiculous. That's what happens when you have a small market team that won't spend, and arguably the most difficult division out of at least the National League, you could say, in the NL West, between the Giants, the Diamondbacks, the Dodgers, and the Padres. The way that that core four is playing right now, the Rockies are nothing more than what's the word I'm looking for? They're just bait for the big sharks, which is everyone else, and they're the little minnows that sadly are going to get cooked. But let's see who's in the chat, everybody. We got Sebastian, we got Caesar, great member, we got Frank, great member, how we doing? We got Ethan, how we doing? Dylan, and guys, as you chime in, please let me know what is, one, your frustration level from tonight's loss, and two, your happiness/confidence level in Brett Baty after having himself a huge 2-home run game. I really want to emphasize what Baty did so well today, because these things I feel like get brushed under the rug all the time after frustrating losses, but they can't be lost in a situation like this because he had such an immediate impact for this Mets team. Cannot be understated. Eric Douglas, how we doing? Great member. Kevin King, great member. Gregory, how we doing? G Money, Jamil going up the list. Art Mayor, how we doing? Daniel Caps, great member. Lordy, Mr. Chicken, PB9, great member. Big Frank, Zach Flaherty, Juliet, our great member as well. We going up the list. Mr. Schiffer, how we doing? We got Jason, how we doing? Daniel Berry, Sports Highlights, how we doing? JTB, Rocco, love the name. Alec, Eric Thorpe, great member, going up here. Steve, how we doing? Andres, how we doing? Going up here and even more. Brooklyn, Will, everybody, thank you guys so much. Come on. Let's get into now breaking down this ball game. Let's see what you guys have to say in the chat here. I'm mad, but not, okay, I understand what you're saying. Juan Soto is a joke. I certainly think that's a take, to say the least, considering that Juan Soto has 5 home runs over the past 11 games for the Mets and has been performing pretty well. I definitely understand the frustration with Soto tonight, though. He's not the only one. Soto, Lindor, among others, all fell with that same frustration with runners in scoring position. But Soto especially had in his final 2 at-bats in this ball game key opportunities to drive in runs with said runners, and he struck out in both at-bats. And yes, that was very frustrating to see after Soto was dominant. Now you guys are even seeing the highlights beside me right now, what he did yesterday with a masterful 430-foot tank of a home run. Then he also hit with runners in scoring position going opposite field to drive in. I believe it was Lindor at the time. Soto looked fantastic yesterday. Today, not so much, and that is part of the ebbs and flows here in the 162. Let's go up here a bit more, everybody. Let's see, and then you get the counter. Jamil says, let's see, Juan Soto's amazing. I know I need to get a cup of tea with lemon and honey. I appreciate that. Probably won't until after the series is done and I'm back home from the finale tomorrow. But again, I appreciate your concern and thank you for the help. Okay, guys, let's get into this and let's break down this ball game because your guy Wardy has a lot to say on this one. Now, heading into this matchup, we were facing Cade Thornton. For those that don't know, Cade Horton is what I meant to say. Horton, here's a who? Cade here did not get the official start against the Mets because the Cubs did pretty much what the Mets have done with new starters this year when they need them to be called up for a rotation spot. They have a reliever come in for the first inning or two, and then they bring in the prospect. So the way that the Mets did it with Play Tidwell and Mr. Brazoban against the Cardinals is the same way that we saw the philosophy of Craig Counsell and the Cubs here for one of their top pitching prospects. And Cade was very sharp against this Mets team. He deserves plenty credit for it. There were also some very frustrating at-bats in this matchup too, just lifeless that we saw. The Mets didn't have a hit for the first, how many innings? I think the first 4 innings or so. The Mets didn't have a hit until we saw in the 4th inning, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And then they started to get the ball rolling from there. But outside of that, there was a lot of frustration in this one. A lot of called strike threes, a lot of swing and miss, and honestly, just a lack of situational plate approach that we have seen frustrate us fans so far this season. You know what I mean? And I will say this, Max Kranick didn't have his sharpest day. Love Max to death. You could definitely make the argument that he was a key factor to losing this ball game, because if the Mets had themselves, at the time still, a 1-run ball game heading into the next time Brett Baty has that bat, for all we know, they take the lead then and they win this ball game. Again, it's always a game of inches, and I'm not going to throw everything on Kranick here because this falls as much on Tyler McGill, not even giving us 5 innings and giving another 4 earned run outing. Back-to-back uninspiring outings for Tyler McGill, and I say that as someone who likes Tyler quite a bit, but has been underwhelmed from the past 2 outings like everyone else has been. And then obviously what you're seeing on the offensive end, the home run heroics are awesome, right? And I love seeing my New York Mets blast home runs out of the ballpark. That's what you want to see on a nightly basis. But what you don't want to see is this continued notion of boom or bust. And that's what the Mets have been with their home run hitting philosophy. A 1-for-10 game with runners in scoring position and 6 left on base is just not gonna get the job done. And Daniel, I don't disagree with you either. I do think that Mendoza left him in at least one batter too long there and Max Kranick. But the reason why I think I'm not gonna go like absolutely bananas about it is just because these things are gonna constantly happen throughout the season. Like there's gonna be situations where we're gonna nitpick it because it didn't work. But if Kranick stayed in and got the final out of the inning without a problem, we wouldn't be complaining. Now, I understand for the fans that say, listen, Kranick didn't have his sharpest stuff today. Why are we keeping him in there after he loads the bases? And that is a proper counter. And that's where it goes a bit in hand with the Mets scheduling and how Carlos Mendoza is going about the bullpen configuration. Knowing you got a quick turnaround tomorrow, knowing who you have available in said pen, kind of has your hands a little tied, at least enough to not make Mendoza go out of his way to make a decision to pull Kranick out there that we saw in the 8th inning. And it's unfortunate. It is what it is now. So let's get into breaking down how this ball game came about, everybody. And Kevin the Soto regret comments are absolutely hilarious. Beyond hilarious. I mean, anyone that thinks that Soto is regretting his decision beyond the Mets is the same person that probably can't step outside without being scared of the sun because they're just so far from reality. Let's see. Go win tomorrow. Absolutely, Daniel. All right, guys, let's get into this. So we have towing the rubber for the Amazons. Big drip or just Tyler McGill today facing off against initially Keller of the Cubs and then in 4 innings of relief there, Mr. Cade Horton. And it begins here in the first inning. Pete Armstrong is batting leadoff. The Cubs say, you know what, we're going to change up the lineup a bit today. PCA's been batting mainly 7th so far this season. They move him all the way up there towards the top of the line. But what happens? He gets on right away with an opposite field base knock there off of McGill. And he goes first to third because not only does he steal second base, but we see Francisco Alvarez shorten his throw there. It was a late, what would have been a tough one-hot pick for Francisco Lindor. Lindor unfortunately couldn't make the pick when I understand to a degree Lindor should have made that pick, but I feel like I'm going to give more blame to Alvarez on that throw falling short there to Lindor and not being more on the money. If that was the case there, if that wasn't as abrupt of a pick, I think that he gets that tag with ease. Regardless of who you want to blame more there, that allows PCA to go from first to third with the ball going through up the middle, and he would shortly score 9 after that because Kyle Tucker then is walked. Seiya Suzuki drives in the first run of the ball game to make it 1-0 there with a single that Tyler McGill again is just leaving too much over the heart of the plate. And then this is where I'm not going to lie, is where the frustration started kicking a bit more. It was after the strikeout on Michael Busch for the first out of the inning. You're walking Justin Turner. We're walking 40-year-old, $170 average Justin Turner. What are we doing here? Like, what are we doing here? All you need to do is try to get Justin Turner to famously induce a double play ground ball right there. Or just strike him out. Gotta do something, right? Let him put a ball in play. Try to make something happen. He's been ice cold so far this year, and you're going to walk him? You're going to walk him? That's going to bother me naturally as a Mets fan, and it did, because walking Justin Turner loaded the bases, and with 2 outs, and this is what I get, and I will personally take the blame over Tyler McGill for this. I will take the blame for the fact that Dansby Swanson had himself a single and had himself a very productive day at the plate, because I was ragging on Dansby the entire time that I was at Citi Field yesterday. Between his botched throwing error at first base, allowing Luis Angel Acuna to get to first base safely, and for 2 runners to then score to make it 5-0 at the time, and just having some very uninspiring at-bats, I was not feeling too high on his abilities to have a great offensive day today. And Dansby Swanson did have a good offensive day today, so I have to eat my words. I'll eat crow for that, and I apologize for the smack talk. I clearly went overboard yesterday. So Dansby makes it 2-0, that he rips a single there. Afterwards, everybody, and I will emphasize this too, the Dansby Swanson single, while they gave him the single, it did go in hand with Brett Baty trying to handle the liner. Again, it was a hard hit ball, but Baty initially bobbled it, got up, made the throw, but as he made the throw, Alonso wasn't able to make the pick either. So it was a collective effort of just nothing going right defensively there, and Dansby Swanson just being fast enough to bolt down there that first base line. As we continue on, because the Mets are down 2-0 in this ball game just throughout the first inning or so. Smash that like and subscribe on as you guys first chime in. Thank you so much for that. We're breaking down the latest in Mets land, so please let us know all your key takeaways in the live chat and in the comments down below. Headlined by Brett Baty's dominance at the plate, and sadly, a Mets continued woes on the runners in scoring position front, going 1-for-10 in this matchup. In the bottom of the first, though, we would see Keller, the reliever for the Cubs, have himself an easy 1-2-3. Francisco Lindor strikes out swinging, Soto flies out, and Alonso strikes out, and that does it there for the first. In the second, we would see John Birdie line out, PCA fly out, and Kyle Tucker flat as well. So a nice 1-2-3 inning that we saw there, everybody. I don't think Soto's vibe is off. It's not that I don't think the Soto vibe is off. I'm not concerned by it. Like, again, he's new on this team. I don't know why we're thinking that he's just going to be, again, happy-go-lucky every single situation. Soto's also been, historically, throughout his career, more of, not an introvert, but a guy who's focused on himself first and foremost. It's okay if we don't see Juan Soto necessarily having the same vibrance and personality, as long as he's going out there and being productive, the way that he has been as of late. Today was just a really not so great day at the plate for him, and that's something that we have to reiterate too. And I do just want to make sure, everybody, that as we're breaking down these highlights that I have, making sure that I'm running the ones that I meant to run for you guys with the new Brett Baty home runs in there, because I know that you guys are seeing a bunch of the bombs from yesterday, but I just want to make sure that you guys are also seeing the Brett Baty home runs from today as well. If not, no worries, because I do have them saved. I'm going to be showing you guys them in a separate thing here. Okay, I believe that it's all saved the way that it should be. So let me know, guys, beside me, if you've been seeing the Brett Baty home runs, because he has 3 home runs that you should be seeing in the highlight clips beside me as we're breaking down this one. Dave, how we doing? Great member as always. White Mike, great member. How we doing? Going up the list here, Alvy, let's see, LGM says Alvy just needs to make more contact, not more home runs. Yeah, we'll get into the Alvarez at bat where he looked horrendous. With the Alvarez home run specifically, not home run, I'm sorry, with his strikeout, his final strikeout of the ball game, that had just a bit more to do with facing a really, really flame-throwing reliever and having no clue how to read him. He threw up the entire time and got him to swing and miss when all he needed to do was stand there like Daniel Vogelbach and he would have took his walk. It is what it is. As we continue on breaking down this ball game, because we get a nice 1-2-3 there on the top of the second from Mr. Tyler McGill. Afterwards, folks, and Jason, how we doing? Great member of the chat. Happy to have you in here. Let's see. Here's the Brett Baty home run. So that's the first one. That was the Oppo tank. I'm actually going to just watch it with you guys right here, right now, to make sure that it's going to play the other two as well, just for a second here. So that's a first. That's another angle of the Brett Baty home run. Okay. Now can we get the Brett Baty? There we go. Okay. Now I just want to make Cade Horton come in for his MLB debut here against the Mets, and he strikes out Brandon Nimmo for his first career strikeout that we see there. Nimmo was initially kind of blown away by his velocity because he started 96, then touched 97, and struck him out on the four-seam. 96 dotted down and away. It was absolutely painted. Would have loved to see Nimmo swing for an opposite field single because it would have been right in the gap. Didn't happen. Unfortunately, he strikes out there for the first out. Then Mark Vientos, who got the start at DH today with Baty at third base, which I like a lot, and I talked about that possibility in our video that dropped earlier today, so I'm glad to see that come to fruition. And then Acuna grounds out, and that's an easy 1-2-3 there for Cade Horton. As we get on to, and Sean says, I was at the game, I lost my voice. Baty hit his home run right in front of me. I almost got into a fight with a Cubs fan. They have no class. They were taunting everyone. Cubs fans have no right to talk shit for a team that has won championship over the past 100 plus years. Just when you think that the Mets, don't have much of a historic franchise with their championship success, just take a look at the Chicago Cubs and you get a slap of reality, which says that yes, the Mets are still in a class above them on that front. They got no right. They got no right. Chicago, Illinois. Ooh, it's like, what are we doing here? And I say that because the people that I would be more concerned by when it comes to Chicago, Illinois, a lot of times they're not the people that are going to probably be going out of their way to be attending Cubs games. A lot of people that are attending Cubs games, and I actually had a great interaction talking to Cubs fans en route on the 7 line yesterday, right to the game, and we had a great interaction back and forth, and we were talking about PCA, we were talking about how the Mets are doing, how the Cubs are doing. It was a great interaction, but I haven't had a personal bad experience with Cubs fans, so it is interesting to hear that from you guys while being in attendance, because when I was there yesterday too at the game, didn't have at all an issue. And Dave, I will definitely check it out as soon as the beginning of the week starts, without a problem. Thank you so much for whatever you sent my way. I always appreciate that. Let's see. And Soto wasn't good tonight. I agree with you, Joe. We can all agree there. Soto did not have a good game. I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat it. He didn't. Seiya Suzuki, then, that we saw, everybody, led off the top of the third with his 7th double this season. Afterwards, Michael Busch rips an RBI single, and that makes it 3-0 Chicago Cubs, just like have a gorgeous pickoff. Michael Busch there at first base, and Nico Horner then is called out on strike 3, and that does it for a clean inning of work for Tyler McGill, and great defensive work by Francisco Alvarez, trying to make up at least a little bit for the not so great throw he had in the first, trying to throw out Pete Armstrong. In the bottom of the third, Brett Baty strikes out swinging, but he would pick it up big time not long after that. Francisco Alvarez gets out with a hit by pitch. Shout out to Cade Horton for making this guy here absolutely locked in on despising Cade his entire career. Thankfully, Alvarez is okay. But Alvarez got drilled right on that same effing hand, that same catching hand that he had surgery on this season with the hamate bone, right on that damn thing, up and in, completely ran in on him. He was in obvious pain. He stayed in the ball game, though, thankfully, in the case of Alvarez. But to see that happen when, mind you, he's not far removed from yet another hand-related injury, it's going to grind my gears. So, Cade Horton, I wish to never see you against the Mets again, because if I'm at a Mets game when you're pitching, I'm going to give you hell, because that gave me PTSD flashbacks of Mr. Mitch Keller drilling our boy Starling Marte in 2022 in Pittsburgh. It gives me a stomachache thinking about it, because that derailed the Mets in part so much that season. If you guys remember, I know a lot of you guys remember that 2022 season. I remember it very well, but specifically that series against Pittsburgh, Marte, when he was one of our hotter batters at the time, going down, and they just couldn't figure things out for the remainder of that final month and a half of the season or so. It was brutal. As we continue on, Tyrone Taylor would then reach base on a catcher's interference. 2 on, less than 2 out for the top of the order. Here comes Mr. Sunshine and Francisco Lindor. And what does Francisco Lindor do, everybody? Lindor unfortunately flies out to PCA. Juan Soto then comes up again with 2 on, 2 out, and he grounds out there to Nico Horner, and that does it for the inning. And in the top of the 4th, Dansby Swanson greets Tyler Miguel rudely with his 8th home run this season. Got all that one, and that's why I said earlier that I'm a schmuck for talking down as much on Dansby Swanson as I did yesterday. I clearly shouldn't have done that, because I ate crow, and it is what it is. 4-0 Chicago Cubs. Nothing else happens. Back-to-back strikeouts on John Birdie and then PCA, folks. And then not long after that, that's almost Tyler Miguel's final line. But before we get there, we get to the bottom of the 4th inning where I apologize, because we're just at the PCA stat. Now getting on to the other Pete, and Pete Alonso had himself a single that he saw ripped up the middle there to PCA, funny enough. Then we see Brandon Nimmo pop out to shortstop Dansby Swanson. Hate to see it in infield pop-up. Mark Vientos gets on with a base knock that we see. Vientos has been hitting a lot for right and center right field. Really, really well so far this year. I like to see that a bit. I would like to see more power from Vientos naturally, but I like to see Mark starting to chip away a bit and making sure he's having a productive day the way that he did today. Mark was solid today, 2 for 4 with 2 runs scored. A wild pitch allows the runners to get to second and third. Luis Angel Acuna, Mike Kane, did not have a good day at the plate today, and that's okay. You're not going to be good every game. Acuna struck out multiple times today, and that was one of the other times he did, but I do appreciate the fact that Acuna, instead of grounding into an inning double play here or something, he just struck out there, and that was that. Here comes Brett, the hitman Baty, Brett Bonds Baty, whatever you want to call him. He makes it a 1-run ball game because it's high, it's far, it's out of here. Brett Baty rips his 3rd home run of the season. It is now 4-3 Cubbies here, but the Mets are right back in it with just 1 swing, 1 blast, just like that. Alvarez pops up sadly to end the inning, and then we head to the top of the 5th where we would see Kyle Tucker ground out. Seiya Suzuki strikeout, and Michael Busch gets on yet again with another single, and that does it, everybody, for Tyler McGill's final line. McGill goes 4.2 innings of 7 hit, 4 earned run, 2 walks, 7 strikeout baseball. A 3.10 ERA now is on the season for Tyler McGill, and he has given up 4 earned runs in back-to-back outings and hasn't went beyond 5 innings now and back-to-back outings, everybody. On a scale of 1 to 10, let me know, guys, in the comments and in the live chat as well, obviously, how would you grade Tyler McGill's final line? Because an outing like this, it's hard for me to give Tyler McGill anything higher than a 4.5 out of 10, because again, it wasn't a great outing and he didn't go deep. So I think staying on the number 4, because 4.2 innings, 4 earned runs, I'm going to give him a 4.5 out of 10, and that's going to be my grade. So now getting on to the bullpen, because Huascar Brosban comes in. Brazo, who has been absolutely nails for this Mets team so far this season, he comes in and he gets a quick pop-up on Justin Turner, the former New York Metropolitan that we just gave up on a little too soon. Color me shocked the Mets giving up on infield prospects a little too soon. Hate to see it. Tyrone Taylor, though, kickstarts the bottom of the 5th, and he strikes out. Lindor then gets on with a 1-out base knock that he rips, we see him rip to the right side to Kyle Tucker. Juan Soto strikes out swinging, which was frustrating, as Lindor would steal his 6th bag of the season. That was not a good strikeout at all there by Juan Soto. And then the polar bear comes in, and Pete Alonso lines out to end the inning. At the top of the 6th, everybody, 1-2-3 there for Huascar Brosban. You want to talk about a guy who looked good? Huascar Brosban. is who looked good. Why didn't Ascar try stealing? We'll get to that, Jorge. We're still breaking this down. Don't you worry. But Huascar Brosban now, guys, 1.2 innings, no hits, no earned runs, no walks, 2 strikeouts. And listen to this, folks. Let me just let you guys appreciate Huascar Brosban a little bit more. Another thing that might get lost in tonight's 6-5 loss against this amazing Mets, for this amazing Mets team, rather. In 18 games and 24 innings, Huascar Brosban has a 1.13 ERA on the season. The guy's been absolutely nails. He's been really, really good for this bullpen so far, and he's helped pick it up. Even when guys like Max Crank have been looking a bit more human as of late, because again, guys are going to go through their ebbs and flows. We know that Reed Garrett is a great story. Last year, the first number of weeks in the season, Reed Garrett was like the most unhittable reliever in all the National League. His splitty was ridiculous. He was getting so much swing and miss. And then he was a guy that was getting overworked quickly, and we were like, we can't utilize him at all right now because he's going to be batting practice or he's going to walk everyone and their mother. So these things will naturally happen in the course of the 162-year bullpen, but it's fantastic to see Huascar Brosban have himself a dominant start to the season for this Mets bullpen, and he's been one of those key factors among others. Could the Fox have glazed PCA anymore? Oh, they certainly could have. They could have got on their knees, even though I was left wondering if AJ had made sure they wiped everything or not. Outside of that, I really don't know. You know, it's pretty funny when you see these national broadcasts. Always, it feels like literally always, it is more of an emphasis on the opposing team. And I know that there's a natural bias that goes in hand when we make statements like that, but it's also really, really hard not to see it when others have seen it as well, and others have seen it of opposing fan bases too that I've talked to in the past on this when I've watched games, especially obviously on ESPN. Certainly an upgrade for MLB, depending on what they do going forward, with their rights with ESPN ending this season, obviously. So between them, Fox, and all the major networks, it's interesting. It is definitely interesting, the kind of narratives that they like to push, because they still want the Mets to be bad to a degree. There's a part of them that loves it, and I think a lot of people that deserve credit when it comes to gassing up the Mets on more of a national level is honestly MLB Network. Specifically when I think of D-Row, for example, I think that there are definitely people that have done a great job as talking heads. But when broadcasts come into play, very swing and miss, if you ask me. Very swing and miss. So let's get back into this one now. Let's break down more of this ball game, even though I don't want to because the Mets lost, obviously. In the bottom of the sixth, though, we would see Brandon Nimmo kickstart the inning against lefty Drew Pomeranz. Remember him? Remember Drew Pomeranz? Yeah, he's back, and he gives up a leadoff single right away to Brandon Nimmo. Nimmo will then go on to steal his second bag of the year. What are the narratives, Rory? The narratives are just that the Mets are the LO Mets. I mean, that's the simple one. And they haven't completely deviated away from that, even with all the great highlights that they had last year and became, such a phenom of a story led by Grimace. Now, again, I say this being nitpicky of a broadcast that wasn't in the Mets' favor tonight, but I also have to bear in mind that there were a lot of broadcasts last year, especially as the Grimace Mets really became more of a thing, that national broadcasts were starting to appreciate more. So, again, I'm being nitpicky here, and I realize that. This loss was very frustrating, Brandon. Absolutely. Another one-run loss for the Mets, everybody. You know that the Mets have... How many losses do the Mets have now this season? We have 15 losses. Out of the Mets' 15 losses this season, they have 7, at least, if not 8. Around half the losses the Mets have this season are by 1 run. So that's not fun. And it's interesting that we state that. I know I'm showing highlights from Friday's game. I'm showing a combination of highlights from yesterday and today's game, because today's game only had highlights of Brett Baty, so I have them combined with the highlights for all the other good things that happened yesterday. That way you guys have something positive to look at and not just the Chicago Cubs doing well. I'm sorry the Cubs fans are watching this. I want to see Cubs highlights, but we're a Mets dominant show for a reason, so I'm not going to go out of my way to do that. So sorry. I don't know what I was going to say, so let's just reel back in. Brandon Nimmo steals his second bag of the year. Mark Vientos, unfortunately, strikes out Sweeney. Acuna goes down on the ground out, and Baty lines down. That does it for the 6th. And the 7th, we would see John Birdie ground out. Then Genesis Cabrera comes in, and Genesis Cabrera looks good. He gets a flat on PCA and a flat on Kyle Tucker. Taking care of the lefties is Genesis Cabrera, and I greatly appreciate that. As we continue on, everybody, is that good or bad? In regards to the narratives, if it's an LL Mets thing, it's not a good thing, because the narrative with LL Mets goes back to the Wilpons days, especially where just like, oh, something bad happened to the Mets. That's because they are the LOL Mets. Like, they're just used to being a laughing stock. That's something that's been so commonly used and phrased over the years. Thankfully, hasn't been as relevant the past 2 years because the Mets are actually a very good baseball team now. Very good baseball team. In the bottom of the sixth, everybody, we see Daniel Palencia come in, and this schmuck is what was the bigger demise for the Mets here, because Francisco Alvarez has an at-bat where not one single ball sniffs the strike zone. No, I'm not kidding. Francisco Alvarez struck out on 4 pitches, and let me just show you where the closest fastball was. Let me just give you guys an inside look right now. Does that look like there's a ball near the zone? No. And I love Alvy, but he just got so outmatched here. It's not even funny. The guy started off with 100. Then he touching 101 right after. He just threw 101 up the entire time like effing Wild Thing from Major League, and it worked. All he needed to do was keep the bat on his shoulders, doing his best Vogelback impression, and he would have had a leadoff walk for the Mets to begin this inning. That frustrated me because while I understood that Alvarez was behind and he certainly just wanted to blast a home run, this is the problem. We can't be having, and I understand, it's not like he just went in there saying, oh, it's home run or bust. But when you're down in this ball game, 1 run, 4-3 to Chicago at the time, it's hard to not believe that Alvy wasn't home run swinging here, right? He's just getting gas. He's completely behind on, up in the zone, literally, north at his eyes, and he's just swinging right through it. So really, really bad at bat from Alvarez. Hopefully we don't see too many that bad, because that takes the piece of the cake. That's the crown of the day when it comes to really bad at bats, for sure. No denying that whatsoever. So Alvarez strikes out on 4 pitches. Tyrone Taylor's a stud, and he gets on with a single because, of course, he does. Lindor then gets on with a walk. So here we go again, folks. Mets have 2 on, less than 2 out for Juan Soto. And what does Juan Soto do? He strikes out on a foul tip of a slider up in the zone. Now, mind you, that at bat, he only faced 1 slider in the first 5 pitches that were thrown at him. Other than that, it was all fastballs. And, some of them were up and away, no close to the zone. Others were a bit more catching the heart of the zone. And then there was a nice dotted 99-mile-per-hour strike for strike 1 of the at-bat that was just inside on Soto. So that was a good pitch, unless Juan really turned on it. But this was another at-bat where, again, unfortunately, Juan just didn't have it. He foul tip strikes out to get nothing there. And then we see Pete Alonso with 2 on, 2 out. All we need is a base hit, and this ball game's tied. He grounds out, and that does it from there. We get to the 8th inning. Max Krenick comes in for Jesus Cabrera after Jesus Cabrera gave the Mets 2.2 strong innings by striking out, or not striking out, getting flyouts back-to-back on the lefty bats to start the top of the order there for the Cubs and PCA and Kyle Tucker. As Krenick comes in, he gets a quick ground out on Seiya Suzuki. Then Michael Busch gets on with a walk as he's now on base for the 3rd or 4th time already in this ballgame. Not ideal, obviously. Then we see Justin Turner pop out, which is what he should have been doing all game. That's why you shouldn't walk him. Nico Hoerner then rips a single, so there's 2 on, and now Dansby Swanson gets on with a walk, because of course he does. Now there's 3 on. And this, everybody, is where I think you can make the rightful argument. Maybe you want to take Max Krenick out of the ball game. But if there's one simple counter I can give to the crowd of, oh, he was left out to dry. Why would Mendoza do that to him? Max Krenick has also been the same guy to be thrown into situations with less than 2 outs and multiple guys on and escape the jams unscathed. Rainbow, I know I'm playing highlights from Friday. I just explained why I'm playing them from Friday. I don't know if you heard it or not. I'm playing both highlights from Friday and today. Why? Because they're the only Mets highlights that we have to show, because there was a national broadcast today, and they're not going to give me all little clips about all the nice web gem that Luis Angel Acuna made, or, about everybody who stole a bag between Lindor and Nemo. No, I got what I got. So you're seeing all the Brett Baty home runs and the highlights from yesterday too. That's about that. But bases loaded for Miguel Amaya, the young, strong catcher there for the Chicago Cubs, and he rips a single, and that makes it 6-3 Chicago. That was a big gut punch because it felt like the Mets did a great job on kind of rallying back to make this a one-run ball game with the Baty blast. And while they weren't out of it, it's very deflating to be down 3 when you are only in, at that point, the 8th inning, right? That's not good because you only got 6 outs more to work with. So not loving that whatsoever. So after that, everybody, we head to the bottom of the 8th. And Julian Merriweather comes in as a reliever for the Chicago Cubs. He gets a strikeout on Brandon Nimmo because, of course, Brandon Nimmo has to start the inning by not getting on base with a walk. What would have been amazing to do, he strikes out a slider down and in, not even anywhere close to the zone. Really not so great at bat there from Nimmo, which pains me. Vientos gets on with his second base hit of the day. Acuna strikes out yet again, but I appreciate that Acuna isn't grounding into constant double plays. I'd rather him strike out every day of the week than put the ball in play and cause that to happen. Then Brett Baty, everybody, steps up to the plate again, and Brett Baty does the unthinkable. Not only did Brett Baty hit a home run yesterday, not only did Brett Baty hit a home run and make this a one-run ball game once, folks, Brett Baty hit a home run to make it a one-run ball game twice. Can we please appreciate the dominance that was Brett Baty today? Like, are you kidding me? These are the stats from the past 24 hours, excluding the batting average and OPS, because that's his current batting average and OPS I want to show you guys. But over the past 24 hours, Brett Baty has a 4 for 8, 500 batting average, 3 home runs, 6 RBIs. And the most impressive thing for me from Brett Baty here is the fact that he managed to do this for spreading for all fields, because Baty going oppo isn't overly shocking. That's something that he's done a lot, like an absurd amount, right? But Baty's big bugaboo has been lifting the baseball, whether it's especially been pulling and lifting, that's been the big issue, or even going opposite field and lifting. And Baty's 2 home runs so far this season opposite field that have come in the past 24 hours were both no doubters. It wasn't like, oh, he just sniffed it and it just got over the wall. They were clearly out of here. And then the home run that he blasted, he ripped to right that you guys see him celebrating right in the highlights right there too. That was just a thing of beauty that he absolutely smoked as well. So I commend Baty so much for, again, taking advantage of the pitches given to him yesterday. He gets 92 a little up and away there and takes it oppo off of the soft tossing Jameson Taillon. And today, again, just pouncing on the opportunities given to him that we saw there from the respective pitchers of the Chicago Cubs. So while, yes, was tonight's loss frustrating? Absolutely. How can it not be? And there is one positive that I want you guys to take away from tonight's loss and that at least sleep a little bit happier about, is that Brett Baty is now performing to a level that can have us thinking, okay, we have truly a golden opportunity here to maximize the potential in the lineup every single night. Now what needs to change is the ability to maximize that potential with runners in scoring position, because we're seeing what's happening with the Mets with the home run power. That's been consistent so far this year. It's been great. I'm very happy with what I've seen. And at home especially, the Mets have been really, really looking good. But, after dropping a game like this 6-5, setting up the early day game rubber match tomorrow that, I'm hoping the Mets win as I'll be in attendance, it still puts them in a tight bind where if they don't produce a runners to scoring position, you're not feeling overly confident on what the outcome is going to be, unless they, again, get enough of a balance from Griffin Canning towing the rubber, and, of course, the offense doing its thing with the home run power. So tomorrow, I'm hoping to not only see Baty in the lineup yet again, because he better be in the lineup for another game. It would be very Mendy to sit him after back-to-back games with a home run, but hopefully that doesn't happen. Would love to see Baty back in there. If it ain't broke, why fix it? Maybe you even want to consider Baty at second base and having Vientos at third. If you don't want to throw off Vientos' defense too much, more than what's already happened at third base, maybe you do want to consider either Acuna getting the off day or Acuna starting. Like, I'm not going to be terribly upset if Acuna doesn't start tomorrow, but I know that he's a Swiss Army knife and he can make things happen. Even though he didn't have his best game today, it doesn't mean that he can't go back out there tomorrow and produce. So Jeff McNeil obviously came in and had himself pinch hits later in this ball game. He's a guy I expect to get a start tomorrow because he didn't start today. But for Brett Baty, everybody, this could be the start of finally something special for him and for the Mets. Because if it ain't now, I don't know if it's going to be ever, right? It feels like it needs to be this season, or it just isn't going to be that. So I'm happy to see Brett Baty do his thing, and I just hope it continues. And let me emphasize, when I say I hope it continues, this is not me going out my way to say that Brett Baty needs to hit a home run every game for the remainder of the season. But what I am saying is that I hope that Baty has a more collected approach at the plate, takes advantage of pitches in the heart of the zone, and also continues the upward swing of actually pulling and ripping a baseball, especially on a breaking ball down and in. That was really impressive because we haven't seen Baty do that too much. Fastballs, we know he can rake just like anyone else, but those breaking balls have been his demise plenty, especially curveball down out of the zone. Forget it. But down and in, oh, he absolutely smoked one earlier, and that was great to see. Do I like Mendy? Oh, I do like Mendy a lot. Yeah, I think Mendoza's a very good manager, especially for a guy who became a first-time manager to start last season. Doesn't mean he's perfect, though, because he's far from it. He makes bullpen mistakes just as much as anyone else, and definitely there are games where you're kind of left like, okay, feels like Mendy had his pause a little bit too much on this, but more often than not, I'm pretty satisfied with Mendoza, especially on the lineup front, keeping the guys happy, trying to keep them uplifted, and also defending the guys, too. I think it's important that Mendy doesn't shy away from. And you definitely don't want to have a manager that's going to be a little bitch, pardon my French, and not do the minimum, which is stand up for your players. And we have had that in the past, and that's been frustrating when we've seen it transpire. So, Brett Baty, thank you so much for what was an amazing day. But that's all she wrote there on the offensive front and for the remainder of this ballgame, everybody, because after that, there was really nothing else for me to get into. So I'll just reiterate real quick. Alvarez, unfortunately, grounds out for the final out in the 8th. And the 9th, Edwin Diaz comes in, and Edwin has a clean 1-2-3, which was amazing. Shout out to Edwin Diaz in the non-save situation yet again and stepping up. He got PCA to fly out, Kyle Tucker to fly out, Seiya Suzuki to strike out, and that did it there for a 1-2-3. Then, in the bottom of the 9th, we get Jeff McNeil gets on with a leadoff walk. And this was huge because McNeil got on. I guarantee that'll slightly carry over into why he's gained his start tomorrow. Just because, one, it makes sense, and two, he did have a quality at bat there, which is not an easy thing to do. Like, I will always give a great tip of the cap to guys that come off the bench ice cold, like in the 9th inning, and get on base right away for your team. That is difficult to do, and I appreciate that a lot. So McNeil gets on with a leadoff walk after grinding out a solid at bat. Then Jose Azcar comes in a pinch run for him. And Azcar, I would have loved to see trying to steal second base right away. I'm really not entirely sure why he wasn't there. And that would stain, because by Azcar not trying to steal second base, that set up the door for a double play ball, and Francisco Lindor made that a reality. Lindor grounded into a double play, and then we would see Juan Soto ground out, and that was the final out of the inning. The Mets go on to lose this one by a final score of 6-5. They're out hit 9-8. How fitting. A one-hit differential in this one is what we see. The Mets had an expected batting average of 294 to 248 of the Cubs, so the Mets had some very bad luck on their side today for what they should have been producing, for sure. And pitching-wise, when we take a look at the guys on their arsenals, let me just give you guys the rundown briefly before we get out of here, everybody. And also be on the lookout, folks. We may have content dropping tomorrow for you guys in the AM. It's not a guarantee because of the quick turnaround with tomorrow's game, so be on the lookout. But it is a possibility because we do have some things to get into on the prospect front mainly. So if it doesn't drop in the AM, definitely be on the lookout, because I promise you guys we will have like a pretty big prospect haul to get into then for the following day if it doesn't drop tomorrow, because not going to do it later in the evening after, the Mets game, because they're going to be too quick and overlapping each other. But either tomorrow morning, you guys will see a new video, or you will see me in some form or fashion after the Mets game, either live from Citi Field or somewhere else, because I'm not doing a live show in the Cadillac Club tomorrow. I don't get access for it every single time because they need a good amount of notice in advance for it. So next time I'm in town, hopefully we'll make that happen. I'm going to see if I can try to set up somewhere at Citi Field, maybe even Kiner's Corner if I, can't make it swing for, 15 to 20 plus minutes in the Piazza Turn Heineken Club. So I'm going to figure out something. So just be on the lookout. And I will preface this. The Mets do not perform well tomorrow, and say they have a very underwhelming loss where there just wasn't a lot to talk about. I will probably not go out of my way to do an immediate live show, and I'll just focus on taking my hike back to PA, enjoying the remainder of Mother's Day with my family and loved ones. And then at some point at night tomorrow, I'll probably do a live show just recapping the series with you guys. So you'll get some type of content, I promise. Just don't know exactly what it's going to be yet. But for pitching wise, let's take a look at, and yes, I will be at the game tomorrow. Very excited for it. I'll be third base side, for those that are wondering. I'll be deeper third base side. So if you guys want to look out for your guy Wardy, be hanging the game with the fam, we're going to have a lot of fun. Let's see here. Tyler McGill had the 5-pitch mix today. 38% of it was with the four-seam fastball. Topped out 97, sat 94.7. Was a little down the velo, but nothing crazy, just a little down. That did make a difference, unfortunately, though. Sinker, 27% of the time. Topped out 95, sat 93. That was down by a full mile per hour. Slider, 23%. Topped out 86, sat 84. Right around the same. Changeup, 8% of his arsenal. Topped out 88, sat 87. and the curveball they threw just 3 times was right around 78 to 80 miles per hour. When we look at the Huascar Brosman outing, he had his 4-pitch mix working. Sinker 45% of the time, topped out 97, sat 96. Love it. Changeup 25% of the time, topped out 92, sat 90. Love it. Cutter topped out 90, sat right around 87. Utilized it 25% of the time, threw it 5 times. Threw his 4-seam once at roughly 97 miles per hour. Jesus Cabrera, curveball and sinker look good. Curveball, he threw 67% of the time. Topped out right around 79, sat that way. Sinker 33% of the time, sat right around 95. Max Kranick, even though he didn't have his sharpest outing today, slider 43%, topped out 91, sat 90. The 4-seam, and that was actually up today in the velo. The 4-seam, 26% of the arsenal, top out 96, sat 95. Sweeper, 22% of the arsenal, topped out 82, sat 81. Curveball, 9% of the arsenal, topped out 80, sat right around 79. And Edwin Sugar Diaz, 4-seam fastball, topped out 99, sat 97. And the slider that he threw 5 times for 45% of the arsenal, topped out at 90 and sat right around 88. Folks, that is going to do it for our latest New York Metropolitan postgame show. I would like to thank you all, each and every one of you, so much for watching. It really does mean a lot. Thomas, let's see here. I'm not exactly sure what my guy Juan did wrong here. When you have come here and troll. That is true. That is true. If you do come in here and you're just going out of your way to kind of be like a dickhead or something, it's going to happen. Freedom of speech is a true thing, Thomas, but this is also a monetized platform that each individual creator has full ranks of full control on what can be and not be said. So if there are things that the moderators feel that shouldn't be warranted to be said in said chat, they can dictate that however which way they will. If it is to the point that I think it's egregious, then I'll go over it. I didn't see anything malicious, but I also haven't been following the chat intensely, everything throughout the entire course of the show either, because I've been actively talking this entire time for you guys. Because you got to realize, guys, if we do the label just freedom of speech, there are some very vile things that have been said in my chat over the years and in the comments, and they happen on almost a daily basis still. So that's why keywords need to be muted and things need to be flagged from being able to be put out there. And if you come in here just to be a troll and take away from what the focus of the conversation is, also, you too may find yourself either being axed with either a timeout or a full kick ban that I won't do, but a mod might do, because you just aren't adding anything but negativity to the chat. So might not agree with it, and that's fine if you don't, but I'm just explaining the reasoning for it. So guys, thank you again for the kind words. Nico, thank you so much for all the kind words too. I appreciate that. But that, my friends, is going to do it for our latest New York Metropolitan postgame show. So I will see you all again tomorrow, some form or fashion. Again, I'll be third base side, hanging out with my fam. We're going to have a lot of fun. So I really look forward to interacting with so many amazing Mets fans yet again tomorrow at Citi Field, which what should hopefully be a better game than what we got today. Fingers crossed, knocking on wood. My boys in blue and orange went 0 for 2 today between my Knicks